Hi everybody, hope you're doing marvelously well. We're here in San Francisco. It's a lovely sunny day and it is 2 days after NAMM. So if I look a bit NAMMed out, that is why. But we're very excited because we're here at Hyde Street Studios. This is an incredibly historic studio. It's been here since 1969. It has made many, many incredible records. Of course, Wally Hyde owned the studio, started it, I believe, in '69, did a lot of great records, Neil Young, all kinds of wonderful stuff. And it's continued that tradition, changed ownership in 1980, and it's had the same owner since then. And they've made hundreds of great records. My good friend, the dearly departed D.H. Peligro, came here with the Dead Kennedys and made records. This is an institution. This is a big part of the music fabric of San Francisco. So I'm very, very excited to meet with Jack Curtzman here, studio manager, and take a tour. So let's get started. Hey, how are you?
Welcome in.
Thank you very much.
Warren, how are you?
It's good. It's actually a lovely summer's day.
It is.
In January.
Yeah, it's nice. Well, that's the thing with San Francisco is we're between 60 and 75 the whole year. So.
What's the Mark Twain quote? The coldest winter I ever felt was summer in San Francisco.
I've heard that, yeah.
Yeah, when the wind comes in. I've had those days and the sun's out and then suddenly the wind comes in. Yeah. But, you know, it's a great city. We've always had a blast here. So this is Studio A.
This is Studio A, yeah. Come on
Excellent.
In. Yeah. So, yeah, this is our flagship room here.
Gorgeous.
Neve console.
What pre's has it got?
1081s.
1081s, yeah. Lovely. So what would that make it, an 8038?
8038, yeah.
Yeah, 8038, all right.
Exactly.
Had to double check.
Yeah.
Nice. Does it have flying faders?
It does, yeah. In fact,
wow.
We got it retrofitted now with THD Labs Tangerine.
Oh, okay.
So it's working on our, same computer. You don't have to have the Martin Sound old computer to the side sort of thing that we used to have, so...
That's really cool. I've met with him and we've interviewed him 100 times at NAMM and stuff like that. But I haven't been to many rooms yet that use it, so it's nice to know.
Yeah, it's great. It's rare that somebody wants to do a full analog mix, but we had the hardware, and we wanted to kind of bring it up to current.
It's
speed,
fun to do a flying fader mix. To be honest, I've only done a few in my whole life, even when. In the 90s, they were de rigueur. I wasn't doing that much. Mm-hmm. It depends on the genre as well.
Yeah.
It depends what you're trying to squeeze in.
Totally,
moves to do. And now, of course, working hybrid, you can do all kinds of fun stuff. Well, this is absolutely gorgeous console. And so it's 30 channels.
30 with mic pre's, and then we've got the other 8 line in there, and then we have a line in section over here, monitor section, 24 line ins there. So
I love it. It's all on. See, we would call those in Britain. We would call those GPO.
Okay, what's that?
General Post Office, because the General Post Office owned the telephone companies.
Okay, sure, yeah.
So they would literally, you've seen the old movies where move 423, and they boom. So these were originally made for telephone operators. So those are GPO patch bays, is what we call them in Britain.
Nice. I've heard them called military style here too.
That makes sense. Yeah, but I know at the BBC, at least when I was a kid, they kept these going, and the interns would get shoelaces and brasso. And just keep the jacks clean and everything.
Yeah. Brush them. Yep.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Amazing.
Yeah. I love seeing this. And then a pair of compressors up here.
2254 is, there's a pair on the other side as well.
Lovely.
So, the idea being when this was put in to do quad, you could link all 4. So.
Right. So this was put in, you said
this was put in here in 92, built in 74.
Right.
And it was in London before that, at a broadcast studio. And
oh, wow. That probably explains the kind of odd track count.
Yeah, yep.
Probably was just custom made for what they needed.
Yeah. Well, the story I've heard about that era is that they used the first 2 channels and pretty much left the rest. They hardly ever touched the rest of the console.
I suppose it would depend on what it was. If it was a broadcast and they were doing live bands and stuff like that, it really depends.
Yeah.
because Neve made a lot of custom smaller consoles for broadcast and everything as well. It's gorgeous, absolutely gorgeous.
This has been pretty, heavily modded a number of times too, of course, as these old consoles tend to be.
Great.
But about 6 years ago, one of our techs, we undertook a pretty heavy restoration project with this, and all of the switches are replaced, all of the push button switches, pretty much every pot and switch in the thing. Nice. So, and
then these Augsburgers in there.
Yeah. So that's JBL and Westlake components that were customized and installed in here, and we made them three-way just a few years ago, actually. So we had the diffused horn was handling all the highs. But, it starts to roll off about 12K. So, to kind of modernize it, we added the tweeter in the middle, which looks like the nose. Yeah.
It does. It looks like a smiling face with a nose.
It looked like a face before, and then we're like, where should we put this tweeter? And, yeah.
So you have Focals out, NS10s. Do you have other selection of speakers if people ask?
Yeah, we've got some Genelecs that we can bring in, yeah. Mm-hmm.
Superb. And then Outboard.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Well, first thing I see is a chorus echo.
Yeah. But yeah, we've got some nice pieces back here. One of the great things about the owner having this place since 1980 is that he was able to collect these when you could get them for a few $100. Maybe give someone some trade time and get an LA2A, that sort of thing.
GML at the top, ROC.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Pair of EQP 1A3s.
Mm-hmm. I love these Langs as well. Have you ever used those?
Yes, absolutely, yeah. And then TC Electronics, 165, love that. Mm-hmm. 160 with the variable attack and release.
Yeah, we got the 160 down there.
Great.
That's just, I love that on kick and snare, just kind of...
The Valley People's next to it there.
Yeah, those are fun. Just kind of crunchy.
PMC 41. I have a 42.
Mm-hmm. I mean, we've got a 42 down there as well. Yep.
There it is. I know that very well. Great. 949.
Mm-hmm.
Those are wonderful.
Yeah, a lot of fun. We had that just in our tech shop, not working for a decade, and I pulled it out and dusted it off, and
it worked.
No, it didn't. I sent it to a guy named Dane Beamish who fixes stuff like that. He's great with it.
Fantastic.
Yeah,
those are pretty classic for a kind of slightly detuned double.
Mm-hmm.
You see them when they're flicking the numbers.
Yeah.
H3500. Those are wonderful.
This is kind of a fun piece. It's the Dimension D, I believe the original unit was called, and that's kind of a copy of it.
Oh, so it's a Clark Technic.
Yeah.
I see.
Yeah, they started remaking those. It's one of the rare sort of remake kind of pieces we've got in there. But I love that chorus sound. So this ADA S1000 1 second digital delay. That's awesome. Yeah. So that's cool. Another one I found in our tech shop that, I messed around with it. It sounded really good. And I thought I'd hook it up in here. The digital effects, I feel like, just don't get used as much as they used to. Do you notice that? Yeah, I do. But it is nice if you've got like outboard stereo compression to use some analog compression going into this, or even sometimes afterwards, and then bringing it back up on fader. There's always this sort of separation that you don't get from using a plugin. Yeah. Because you've got the board doing all its thing as well. Yeah. But you're right. It's tough. It's so much quicker and easier to call up and listen to 15 different reverbs. Yeah. In the time it takes to patch and pull this up. Yeah. They do have some character though, especially something like this, the 480L. We've got one of those. That's, absolutely. That's a lot of nice character in there. The bit rate and the filtering, that's really kind of has a real tone to it. 500 series stuff up there, some fun things. 542s, I haven't really used those. Oh yeah, they're fun. Just tape emulators, but they can go pretty extreme and get real saturated. They've got the Silk. I'm sure you're the Silk. I mean, I've tweaked them once or twice in studios, but a lot of my friends swear by them. So yeah. Should probably get a pair. Radial, what is that? Is that a reamp? So this is kind of fun. It interfaces with Spring. So you can wheel a guitar amp in here and hook up to the spring in the guitar amp and take a DI track or something, or even a vocal, whatever, it's pre-recorded, and send it to the spring and get spring reverb back.
That's pretty fun.
Yeah, it's cool. You can even take, we've got a couple that we can just hook up that are just sitting here,
Nice.
if you don't want to wheel an actual amp in and use its spring.
So a couple of Grace preamps, a couple of 550Bs, API EQs. You've got a Burl mic pre there. And then, it's an Aphex.
Yeah, yep. It's their, I haven't seen too many of the 500 version of their Exciter, but that's what that is. I always like the Exciter. It's kind of a nice,
They're going to be fun on things.
Yeah. They were sort of everywhere in the 90s, I feel like. Just
it was like a Guitar Center thing, wasn't it? You go into Guitar Center and you buy your first recording equipment and they go, here, you need this too. And they'd sell you, what was that bass thing called? Like the 19-inch rack, and it would give you more low end.
Yeah.
They'd sell you an Aphex
the big bottom.
And the big bottom, yeah.
Sure, yeah. Yeah, totally.
With your ADAT and your Mackie console. Yeah. Hyde Street Studios. Okay, so John Hardy Jensen preamps. I presume these were made for Hyde Street then?
These were actually made for Sunset Sound. Yeah. And they were in an AMEC console that then Hyde Street bought, put in our Studio D for many years.
Okay.
And then parted out. And then we had these, all of these preamp cards that were custom designed for by John Hardy. So, they're very similar to, I believe it's his M2 design, if you're familiar with his products.
We had a pair of John Hardys for years at one of our studios, and they were really good on pianos.
They're really nice. I mean, they are this extremely high fidelity preamp made with, a lot of analog components, with the...
I found them very hard sounding, and I don't mean that like in a negative way, like good on pianos because they had almost like a 2K kind of...
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah, they're fast and absolutely.
Yeah. And EAR, do you get to use this much?
Yeah, that's a lot of fun. That's
Is it stereo in, stereo out?
No, it's mono.
It's only mono. Okay.
Yeah, but
it's a shame. It might be nice on a master bus.
Yeah, it's I believe a fairly faithful Fairchild recreation.
Sure.
Yeah.
Hence the 660.
Yep.
Rather than the 670. I should have noticed that. All right, so a pair of LA2As.
This one's an LA2, which is just sort of an earlier version.
I was going to ask, do you know what's the differences?
I don't right off the top of my head. This one, this one's
Answers on a postcard, please. If anybody does actually know, I'd be intrigued to see what it was. Yeah. Mm-hmm. It looks great. Love it. We'll definitely get a lot of photos of that.
These things all kind of age a little differently, but at this point, this one's just a hair slower.
Yeah.
So, it kind of has a slightly different character. But.
It looks great. A distressor, your headphone, and then an Allen Smart.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. C2, nice stereo compressor there, sort of SSL style.
Are those original blue stripes?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Oh, those are quite valuable.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Everybody wants the blue stripes. Lovely. And an M76. And then a La La limiter. What can you tell me about that?
Yeah, so that's like a stereo LA2A by a company called Eclair, early boutique audio manufacturer. Those are fun, yeah.
Yeah.
Crush a pair of room mics or something with them, or, all sorts of uses like that. But got such a character.
Definitely see them all over Southern California.
Yeah.
I don't know. They're in other studios, but San Francisco as well, Northern California, but as well. But definitely a California thing. I hadn't seen them in New York when I first started working there. I'm sure they have a couple. Then, of course, the Drama Gate. I remember that was just like every studio had one before we had DAWs and the ability to gate so fast. Those were great.
Sure, yeah.
What tape machine do you have?
Studer A820.
Oh, there it is.
Yeah, there it is. And difference between the 827, which Universal Audio emulates, is just the VU versus the LED meters there. So.
Oh, is that the only difference? Yeah.
I believe so, yeah.
I had an A80 Mark II for years.
Okay.
I made a couple of records on 827s and 820s, but the A80 was always the one I wanted just because of the year, even though these are probably more sophisticated.
Yeah. Did that have the auto calibrate functions and that sort of thing? That's what I love about this. It's so easy. You don't even need to know tape machines that well to run
we
it.
definitely had it professionally calibrated, so probably no. And if it did, I didn't use it. Mm-hmm. I don't think it did. No. Yeah, gorgeous. Now, are you getting many tape sessions?
Probably it'll get used maybe once a month, once every couple months.
Oh, that's okay. I mean, to be honest,
it's pretty good. I feel from what I hear from friends in the industry, that's a little better than most. Well, I think people like to come here because of the history and the collection of classic gear is it's an easy place to make a vibe record, that has a 70s vibe or a 60s vibe or something like that. So
it does remind me of Sunset Sound because of the period, 69 and the parquet floor and just the carpeting and everything. This is such a great period of studio building in the US, isn't it?
Yeah, well, it's it's when studios started to shrink a little bit for the rock band, for the popular music group. It was if it was built 10 years earlier, it might have room for a orchestra or something.
Sure. Yeah.
But yeah,
I love the JBLs up here.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Feed them back in.
Yeah.
I mean, they would do quartets and stuff, like playing the music back in and record it, and then flip the mics out of phase. And wouldn't always work, but amazing.
Yeah. So yeah, this is pretty close to what it looked like in 1969 when it opened as Wally Hyde recording. The booths were added in the 80s.
So it was a bigger live room, and then they.
Yep. It's a bigger live room. We've got a machine room off of the control room, and that was the booth back in those days.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So yeah, these were put in, and obviously this gives us, the booths give us a lot of flexibility in what we can do then.
What's hiding under there? A 9-foot Steinway or something?
That is a Baldwin.
Oh, a Baldwin.
Baldwin 9-foot concert grand.
Lovely.
Yeah.
I didn't know.
We used to have a baby grand in here, and it was a lot easier to maneuver. But we'd get classical pianists and jazz players that kind of turn up their nose at a baby grand. So
I have a baby grand. I love it, but I know what you mean.
Yeah.
I like it. I like the action. It's a well played. It has that sort of, it has that feel of a piano that's been played. It's got some life in it.
It's 70s, and I think it's a nice quality piece. Yeah.
I've made some great records on Baldwins. Very, very underrated piano. We had one a 7-foot, not a 9, but we had a 7-foot in our studio for years, and made so many records on them.
Nice.
Yeah, really, really great.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's been easy to maintain too. It's rock solid.
Yep. I don't think they make any concert pianos anymore. When Gibson bought them, they sort of stopped making them.
Oh, is that right?
Yeah, probably to order now.
Yeah. Well, I mean, Steinway's kind of cornered that market, I think, too.
Sure. Well, and C7s. Yeah. Yamaha C7 is pretty much like, if I go to a modern-ish pop rock kind of studio these days, everybody has a Yamaha C7.
Yeah.
Or, dare we say it, virtual instrument.
Yeah.
Is it an M3? What is it?
This is B3.
Oh, it's a B3, but why does it look smaller to me? Maybe I'm getting bigger, Eric.
That's a classic B3. Wonderful. And Leslie here.
And there's a secondary Leslie over here.
Yeah, so that I've been keeping in here because it's new and I want the engineers to sort of notice it. But that's a Wurlitzer version of a Leslie there.
That explains why it looks so strange.
Yeah. And we just kind of built it into a instrument input amp there. So you can plug a keyboard into it or guitar or whatever, really. Oh yeah, this is a custom box that our tech Dave Dick made.
Yeah.
And this allows us to essentially reamp anything, any line level pre-recorded.
Plug a guitar in there.
Or plug a guitar.
Get the While My Guitar Gently Weeps guitar solo sounds.
Yep.
Yeah. Lovely.
Yeah, so go right from that to the Leslie there. Yeah.
Superb. Do love a Leslie. Clavinet?
Yep. Mm-hmm.
Beautiful. Mm. Oh, so who makes this? A Vibernet?
So this is a Hohner. And then the electronics are by Vintage Vibe. Are you familiar with them? They do.
No, I'm not. Okay. I mean, I looked at it and thought, oh, it's a clavinet.
Yeah.
And then I come over here.
They're somewhere on the East Coast. They do a lot of nice parts to maintain like a Rhodes and a clavinet and a Wurlitzer, some of the old electric pianos, and they make that replacement electronics card there, preamp.
Yeah.
And it's got the auto wah, and it sounds awesome. Love the Ottawa on that.
Oh, different pickup selectors.
Yeah, it's instantly that Stevie Wonder sort of thing with that Ottawa.
RD700, here we go. Mark 1 stage piano. Love the Rhodes. Gorgeous. What's this Marshall? Is this like this one of those little mini ones they did?
Yeah, that's the reissue of a Plexi.
So as of
212, I think.
As of 2 days ago, so you can date this, Marshall has been sold for £1 billion, which is about $1.2 billion to a Chinese company.
Amazing. I did not know that.
Yeah, billion. That's insane.
That is crazy.
Absolutely insane. Profit 10.
That's a local piece. Yeah. They're here in the Bay.
So they remake them here?
I don't know that they make them here, but they're headquartered here, Sequentialist. Okay. Yeah, in San Francisco, and that's a great unit there because it's the reissue of the '70s, but it's lots of polyphony available.
Right. So, and for MIDI control as well. Probably even just got a USB cable in the back or something. Yeah. Times have changed. Wurlitzer. I used to have a student one exactly the same color. These are superb. I love these.
Yeah, my new thing with this is the little kick wheels I put on it so that I can move it.
Nice.
Because it is such a pain to move otherwise. That's the kind of stuff that I nerd out about as the studio manager, is how to move things around. And
quickly and easily, without scratching the floor up.
Yeah.
That's smart.
Yeah, and
this is like a B15 reissue, is it? It's called
exactly.
EF50T.
Yeah.
Fun.
Yeah.
Now the airline, that's really awesome.
Yeah, so from what I understand, they used to sell these at like Sears and places like that, and it's got a really unique sound. It just breaks up like right away, and a really pleasant saturation on that thing.
Two kind of opposites, because there you've got the twin reverb there. It's probably the loudest, cleanest thing you've ever heard in your life. It does break up, but... And probably very famously, Steve Jones's distorted guitar sound from the Sex Pistols.
Yeah, wow, I didn't know
everything
that.
on 10 and just
crazy. Yeah,
Les Paul into a twin.
Nice.
But yeah, it's funny, isn't it? With things like this, when I was a kid, you could buy all of this stuff for nothing. Everybody wanted a Marshall and a Trace Elliott bass head, and anything that was left of center that wasn't like, it was cheap.
Yeah.
And now all of that stuff, of course, is what we want because it's unique, because it doesn't sound like everything else.
Right. Yeah. Nobody's making a recreation of that anymore,
Or they may be, but there's never going to have that individuality that you had in this kind of stuff. The thing that I think the virtual instruments have done for us, if they've sort of leveled everything, what used to be unobtainable is now easy to get. And what now is unobtainable is the unique things. Your piano, no other piano in the world sounds like that piano. But you can go and download a Bosendorfer recorded in a Vienna Symphony Hall.
Sure.
And everybody in the world can have the perfect piano sound. But only you have that beautiful old Baldwin.
Right.
Same thing with that amp. I love that. Absolutely love it. All right, we're going upstairs. We're following Jack. I'm going to check out the mic locker. Walk this way.
So there's some of the Wally Hyde recording, just a few of the records that were done during that era.
Yeah, it's we've done a lot of stuff where Wally's name has come up over and over again. And Braxis,
Santana,
yeah, incredible record.
Yeah.
Deja Vu.
That was Braxis was Studio C. This one was Studio. Yeah, this one was our Studio D.
Wow.
Headhunters. Yeah. The American Beauty by the Dead, that was Studio A.
Wow.
As well as the CSN there. So.
That was Studio A as well?
Yep. Cosmos Factory was in C.
Wow.
Yeah, and this wall could be giant that era, but it's just a lot of great records then.
All incredible records.
Yeah. One of the things I like about working in this building too is, aside from what we've got going on in our Studio A and our B room, is that I lease space to all sorts of other studios. We've got other studios set up, people doing sound for video games, sound for films, other people doing music projects, and everything from a control room with a small booth to big studios like this. So.
Amazing.
So it's nice to show up.
Who's hiding out in Studio C?
That's Jameson Durr. Jamie Durr is him and his partners have this space. So
beautiful. We'll go and visit them later. Yes.
Yeah. Yeah, it's nice to show up and not just have whatever I've got going on, you know?
Yeah,
So
yeah,
it's a whole
absolutely
community.
amazing.
Yeah.
And I think that is the future of every major studio. And it's a similar blue idea where you have the classic live room that also everybody else can share if they want it.
Totally. Yeah, yeah. We share mics and book each other's rooms and all that sort of thing too.
That's amazing.
Yeah. Similar to the Outboard gear, it's just a collection of mics that have been collected over the years. So this is our U47, and this is a pretty unique version. U47P has this head basket or capsule that's removable there, and it's the bayonet style.
It's amazing.
Yeah, this was all of the gear, the Outboard gear, the microphones were typically all purchased during the 80s when Hyde Street Studios was starting. Wally took all his gear out when they left. Okay. Yeah, but Dan Alexander, I don't know if you've
of course,
heard him.
yeah.
Dan was one of the original partners with Michael Ward, so he was really instrumental in getting a lot of the pieces. Yeah.
KM54.
Yeah.
Love and know this very well.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's a great sound.
53, 54, and 56.
M49s. Those are great mics.
Yeah, beautiful.
I got to replace the little jewel there.
Do you have a pair of them?
Just one, actually.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. C12s, we've got a pair of those, and those are downstairs getting ready for that drum session. So
I had to go straight for these. These are the 692, and you have a pair of them.
those are mine, yeah.
Oh, well, good job. Yeah, these are wonderful.
And I've got all sorts of different capsules.
The M70s and all the different little capsules that you put on.
Here's some of those.
Yeah, these are great. Mm-hmm. They were a sleeper mic for a long time. I got my first one for like $300, but now they're nowhere near that. That's amazing. Yeah, what a great collection.
Yeah.
451. Oh, wow. B&K.
B&K, yeah. Yeah, we rarely use that, but it's a fantastic sounding mic.
I know, I haven't.
And really, extremely flat and nice reference.
Yeah, great reference mic. Yeah, it's fun to see one. I haven't seen one for a while.
These are kind of fun behind you here. These ribbons. I picked these up, Melodium. So these are a French version of the RCA 44. And they are just massive ribbon mics.
Oh, you mean like French version as in made at the same period?
Yeah, made in that same era and an extremely similar design. I think they probably just took it from RCA.
I'm grabbing my phone here to take a photo.
Yeah.
Absolutely love that.
A guy you might know, Stuart Tavner, sold me these.
You have a pair of them?
Yeah, pair of those, yeah.
Oh, that must be incredible for rooms and stuff.
Absolutely, yeah. Fantastic. Some
Octavas, very... Yep. I wouldn't say a sleeper mic. I think everybody knows they're great.
Yeah. Yeah.
546. Mm-hmm. Lovely.
Yep, some fun stuff. These, I like this mic a lot. This is a PML, Swedish company. And this is one of their newer offerings. Affordable, too. I think it's less than $1,000.
Now, Pearl and MyLab became one company recently.
They did.
Yep. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yep. So that's the rectangular capsule design that both of those companies are famous for.
And both, I always assumed they were fairly modern, but I just did a little research on them. But I think both the companies were starting in like the late 40s.
They go back, yeah. In fact, the reason I knew about them is that...
Or early 50s.
Is that we've had these for forever. And these are the DC63. Similar capsule, different format.
What a great looking mic.
Yeah, and all sorts of polar pattern options, and this, Swedish card will tell you how to...
In Swedish?
How to dial it all up. In Swedish, yeah.
Yeah.
But the chart's handy, that's for sure.
No, that's superb. Yeah. Oh, I love stuff like this. I mean, there's a romance to this kind of equipment that we absolutely love. And we'd be honest if we didn't realize that's a big part of the job. It's just like, seeing these things.
Yeah, these are still a sleeper mic, I think. I like this one a lot.
What's this?
Oh, I've got somebody put tape all over it. This is the RE38.
I've never used an RE38.
Electro voice, yeah.
What do you use it on?
It's great on snare, great on horns.
Well, horns, I mean, Tower of Power, Bay Area band, probably the horn band if ever there was one.
Yeah.
Plus, of course, Rocco Pastia on bass.
Another thing we've got here is our echo chamber. So when I first came here in 2011, You could take about 4 steps in here, and it was just covered in storage. You know, it was just filled with storage and hadn't been used in years and years. So we made it a priority to clear it out and get it going again. And it gets used all the time now. It's a really fantastic sounding room.
Oh wow! Are we will use it on the drums?
Yeah, absolutely. You should definitely take a listen to this on the drums. You know, it's the same chamber sound you hear on a lot of those classic Wally Hyde recordings.
So good. Pair of 460s. What do you got up here?
Sontronics.
So, we love Sontronics.
Yeah, so we usually just choose either one of those pairs there.
Yeah.
And got them running through preamps, so it's all line in, line out. Got a Genelec here to pump some sound in.
Superb.
It's all designed in 1969 when Wally Hyde opened the place. You know, of course, no parallel walls, so all odd angles in the corners and stuff. So,
amazing.
Yeah,
love it.
It's a really nice reverb sound. There's a Trillium Labs, which was bought by Avid, the space plugin.
Yep.
They did an IR of this.
We should do an IR on here.
Yeah. Well, it's especially because that one doesn't sound nearly as good as the real room.
Yeah.
So
Okay. Let's talk about that, Jack.
That'd be great.
We will do that.
Yeah.
I must say, I love the High Street logo.
Yeah, I believe that was, you should ask Michael Ward, the studio owner, about this, but I believe he hand drew that when the place opened. And, it just became
It's just not logo. Pretentious. It's just like High Street Studios.
Yeah.
It's like, the S is nice, but generally speaking, it's like a statement of fact.
Yeah.
Michael Ward, how the devil are you?
I'm pretty good. How about you?
Good. We've had a lovely time here. Thanks for having us here.
Thank you.
It's been 2 days. We've interviewed a lot of people. We've been around all your rooms here. I think everything, even the chamber.
A lot of familiarity with every room in the building.
So you took the place over in 1980, is that correct?
Right.
So that's, wow, it was starting in 69, so you had it the majority of the time by about 4 times.
Yes, I guess that's true.
Yeah.
It's, time has a funny way of sneaking up on you, and certainly was not my intention to be a studio proprietor for all these 45 years.
So how did you end up? So you're a musician, you're recording. How do you end up buying this place?
Well, we didn't buy it. I mean, we basically just moved in with first and last month's rent. When we moved in here, the rent was $2,200 a month. And I had come down, and my eventual partner had called me up and told me about it. Dan Alexander, he had a studio over in the East Bay where I'd done a bunch of work. I came and took a look at the place and met with the landlord, and he became interested in me, started calling me up and, enticing me with, a lower rent and basically made it, incrementally more attractive.
Right.
The intrigue and romance of, having access to, I come from the era of when studios became, studio craft became, an artistic endeavor instead of
Sure.
so more so than the technical one, and that was my, that was the basic attraction for me, is it just to have access to, as I say, I'm a writer, and I was better writers still have, the only thing that justifies my current involvement is that I get to use it, I don't know. You're probably aware of the fact that most, I would say, a great majority of recording studios don't actually make money. That the only reason to actually own a studio is to use it.
So give us a little bit of the journey. You move into place in 1980. What was the sort of, you came in here as a songwriter yourself and a musician. I'm sure you wanted access to all of this great gear and this great place to work in as well.
I had a studio in my basement at that point. We went we basically were in business for about 3 years. Tom Sharpless and I had, it was a common endeavor, and for a while we even played in the band together. We came in, what did we have? We had an Electrodyne, a discrete console.
Sure.
Electrodyne console. They had 24 inputs, and we had an MM1000 Ampex, and Tom was a German background, and he had collected some pretty fancy gear. He'd tell stories about sitting in an interrogation room in East Germany when he went on a mic buying tour over there, and trying to explain what a U-47 was,
right,
and not, and avoid the implication of spy gear and stuff like that.
Right. Was there any equipment in here at all?
Oh, no. Yeah. Well, the only thing that we ended up with from the Hyders, this was Wally Hyders, which had done lots of fancy stuff here in town. Santana did, I think, their
Abraxas.
Their second record here in this room, and the Airplane and those kind of guys did a bunch of records here as well. But the only thing we ended up keeping was some Uri 813s that were up in Studio D. I mean, eventually Wally sold it to Filmways, which was a big film, who I think were more interested in the glamour aspect of things than
the business side.
Than the business side,
Right.
and within, I think, 3 or 4 years, they figured out that the romance wasn't worth what they were paying for it.
Quite a frequent story in the music business.
Yes, it is. Well, and and like here in this room was set up for quad, and strangely enough, they had set it off center where. They'd set up the sweet spot was right here, and there were these big MDF protrusions from the walls, where they were, for some reason, they were attracted to Altec A7s,
right?
And so there were 4 A7s in here, and when I first came to look at the place, there were A7s everywhere. They had A7s out there as studio playback. Terrible sounding speaker.
Yeah, a huge mid-range box is just blasting your head off.
Yeah, it was, with those obtrusive horns.
Yeah, just horrible mid-range things, What was the sort of process of coming into a place that was established with Wally Hyder and then sort of flipping it around as High Street Studios? How did you...
Well, all of us were bargain-minded people who, and... there was lots of competition all over the place. Most of it is cleared out. People have gotten sensible with their lives, I think. And, Dan's gig was equipping things, and mine was rebuilding every room in the building,
Right.
I started in here, and, basically I had done enough work and enough studying on acoustic principles to, improve on what they had done considerably.
You're the guy that builds things. Dan was the guy that was sourcing the gear.
Yeah, and Tom was basically an electronic genius.
Oh, okay.
I mean, he, as I said, he was head of R&D for Otari. I mean, actually, I was the first. My band was the first to ever record on an MTR 90.
Nice.
Yeah, and actually, and they took that tape. We did that recording at the Automat, which was David Rubinson's place, the former Columbia Rooms.
So then, how do you sort of drum up work? You know, because
Well, I mean, when we took over the place, it was kind of a local event to a certain extent. I mean,
Okay.
we pissed off a lot of local studios by being. I mean, I think our first rating here was $25 an hour, not including an engineer.
Oh, okay.
So, basically, it's, just put the word out. And this is a pretty small community, so the Bay Area, and lots of people knew about us. And, the same romance that attracted us, attracted the community at large, I think. Same room that Santana recorded in, people still come in with that same...
Headhunters, yeah. Herbie Hancock, yeah.
Yeah. Well... I remember when I was doing remodeling Studio D and pulled down the first level of sheathing on one of the walls in D. Somebody in Marcelot had written, whoever reads this should know the history of this room, and cited everybody from Herbie Hancock to. I think he did Maiden Voyage up there as well.
Yeah.
And, like some really, milepost records. Yeah. The history was pretty well known. We didn't have the greatest record for the first several years because a lot of the stuff we brought in, we've been bought in, bargain situations and wasn't all that reliable. Sure. And I think we got a reputation for that for a while. But as I say, Tom was a recognized electronic engineer, technical engineer, and could, address a lot of those issues. But, when we opened up, within, I think, a year and a half, we were operating 3 major rooms. Actually, and quickly, we got an old Neve a broadcast Neve that Rupert had built in his garage. But everything, as with a lot of used gear, especially back then, was not highly, it was like that transitional period when moving out of analog. Tube was, Dan would tell stories about, $50 C12s that he would pick up from, Austrian public television and things like that. And we had the benefit of that transition, but, also the downside was that a lot of it wasn't 100% reliable. And that kind of difficulties, basically worked against us for quite a while.
But there was quite a period in the 80s and even through to sort of early 90s where anything of that period was considered to be out of touch. Everybody wanted a brand new SSL. They didn't want a Neve.
Not quite all, I mean, there was, sure. As I say, there was I basically picked that up from my partners, but there was a lot of technical snobbery back then.
Sure.
That the superiority of analog and tube signal path was, that was where you got the sound. And absolutely. I think that, all the considerations of heat and, compression and all that kind of stuff was not, a lot of that's what we were after.
Yeah.
And the warmth of that signal path, we still, as this is kind of, and there was that kind of constant need to upgrade and get more, get better, And it was, and I went through that, you know, as, you know, our partnership lasted about 4.5 years, something like that. And, you know, I was afflicted with that for quite some time. And then we kind of reached the point where once we got this and kind of, you know, the gear that we had already collected and refined,
Yep.
became enough. A lot of this gear that's here now has been here since then.
Sure.
And I was relieved of the need to feel like if we could just get, you know, one more mic or one more compressor, we would be in business. That, you know, was huge relief that all we had to do was refine what we already had. Sure. And
maintain.
And yeah, refine it, maintain it, and, you know, and make sure that things went well in sessions. After a while, you know, there's not many of these boards in operation left in the world.
So many got parted out for pre's and stuff.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Parted out for pre's, and, you know, 1081s are, I don't know, I think they're $3 or $4 grand a piece, something like that. Yeah. I have, you know, it's been a great relief that I don't know what those things cost anymore, because I'm not concerned with getting more of it.
Although I think these days a console as a whole, I mean, that's about 100K's worth of pre's, but the console itself is probably worth over 2. So now these days,
I'd say probably even more than that.
Yeah, 250, 3. Yeah. People are actually valuing consoles again. They're not just looking at it as a bunch of pre's.
Well, you know, I mean,
lovely.
We have the reputation, both with, you know, the history of the rooms that we've managed to. I've done quite a bit of acoustical work on the rooms to improve them.
They all sound fantastic from what we've heard.
Yes, they do. They didn't always.
I can believe that. Yep.
The bones of the rooms were put together when, you know, there wasn't as much acknowledged expertise put into the rooms themselves. Sure. You know?
I think what I love about your rooms and other studios that I love is there's also a sort of sense of randomness about it. Like, it's not so perfect that they have zero feel whatsoever. Like, you know, each room has its own personality, because I think there's this sort of illusion that everything should be flat and perfect and nice. And
I mean, I think that, in quotes, flat rooms, I'm not sure that they exist.
Yeah. Well, if they did, there'd be an anechoic chamber and not something you want to record.
Well, you know, I've had, you know, supposedly fancy Dan engineers going, well, the room's not flat. And, you know, all I do is look at them because...
Exactly.
You know, it's like, yeah. Yeah.
Well, usually you find it to a benefit. You know, you find somewhere there's a bit of a low-end bump, stick a mic there, you know, and you get like a lot of like low-end that you can blend in. Yeah. I like those things.
Well, most of these rooms were built in the era of close miking of everything.
Yeah.
And, you know, room sound, you know, was an anathema. People weren't interested in having the room speak at all. Yeah. And that's a fool's game to begin with, is my opinion. And just make it sound as good as you can. And as a musician and as someone who's in there recording, you're going to get the feedback from the room, both from your own ears, and if you're working with high-end engineers, which we've had plenty through here, you cop to their advice.
So Mark Needham's a very good friend of ours.
Oh, really? Yeah. Mark is actually I found this out. We were being interviewed a few months back. As I was introducing him, I was telling the crowd that yes, he's the first person that ever recorded me. Back when I was in music school, and he said, "You're the first person I ever recorded."
There you go.
Yeah, we were in a closet, and we were both. He was basically honing his skills, or you know, basically blooming his skills as an engineer, and I was just a songwriter geek.
He has told us about you and this studio for a couple of decades of knowing him. So I'm glad we finally got the opportunity to come up here and hang out with you.
Mark, he's actually everything I've ever well, not everything I've ever recorded, everything I've ever put out, he's mixed every song. You learn to appreciate what people's skills are. You know, I mean, so many people can mix, but when Mark mixes, it sounds like a record.
Exactly, yeah, it does, yeah.
And, you know, he has a righteous, well-regarded information or reputation, as you know.
Yeah, there was so many times I was tracking, you know, in LA. He's like, you should go to San Francisco, go and check out. Yeah, he told us to come here 100 times, so I'm glad it's finally happened.
The whole situation here, you know, I mean, we're kind of last guy standing, as it turns out.
We've seen your business model work now in half a dozen great studios, and it's very, very smart, where you basically go, well, you've got one classic room. Here's our classic room. We're going to rent out other rooms. If people want to come in and track their drums here, they're also sub-renting from us and do. I mean, it works well. I can tell you about half a dozen studios that have weathered the storm by morphing into that. So it's very smart.
Yeah, well, I mean, going condo was. I mean, there's no way we would.
Going condo. Have you heard that before?
We wouldn't have survived. You know, I mean, you know, and it took a while to get a crowd of people to rent here who truly appreciated it, and
they also get on really well together.
Yeah, no, that's what I'm leading up to here. Is that it's a true community, and that virtually all the people who are here now appreciate it, and appreciate us, and appreciate it. And I think we're pretty benevolent landlords, you know.
You certainly are, yeah.
And I appreciate the community aspects of the situation and want to encourage it as much as we can, you know.
I think you've done an incredible job.
Thank you. Yeah, I mean, it's, you know, sometimes the rent's a little late, or having been poverty-stricken, you know, studio owners, having a situation, I mean, obviously immovable aspects to our situation. Our landlord is not forgiving at all. You know, he wants his rent on time, and as does PG&E and all those kinds of things. But beyond that, you know, we're, you know, willing to work with people up to, you know, our ability.
Yeah. So Nani, who is a friend of ours, who we've interviewed, who works at Hansa, an incredible studio in Berlin.
I've told, you know, I mean, every once in a while I get an announcement in German forwarded to me by Nani. And,
which is great, because she's Swedish, so a Swedish, German, English announcement.
Yeah. I really like her a lot. I mean,
Nani is amazing, yeah.
And she has good, honest, practical approach to her work. And has, for one thing, she came with all these connections to people who are Neve experts all over the world. I'm not sure, some guy in Nashville that is well known among aficionados, and so we had access to all this high-end lore about.
In LA, it's Pat Schneider, Nashville, Jeff Tanner. Is that it was?
Those, perhaps. Yes, I think it sounds. It's been, thankfully, a long time since I had to think about it. When this goes down, you know, I mean, it's like the stress level goes through the ceiling.
But luckily, they don't go down that often. You might just have a bit
of
a channel.
I mean, we did a whole upgrade and stuff like that. And which, you know, you start with a budget for 2 months and you end up after 4, you know, the stress goes through the ceiling. You know?
I can imagine, yeah.
And when you're hiring people who know what they're doing, they're getting paid what those people, you know. I softened the bill somewhat by putting her up at my house. And stuff.
Right. Yeah.
But, you know, she was here 4 or 5 months, something like that.
That's incredible. When was this?
15 years ago, something like that.
Oh, wow, that long ago. Yeah.
Maybe not that, you know, I mean, it blends after a while.
Yeah.
But
she seems so young to me, but she's got...
She is kind of ebullient
yeah, exactly.
person. And, you know, I think it masks her true vintage.
Yeah. No, very true, very true. Well, that's lovely.
Yeah, no, it was. It was a score. As I say, I just overheard her talking to somebody at a party. and got her contact information. I don't even think I got it from her, it's maybe secondhand. And she had the time and was willing, which...
Amazing.
And it was a real stroke of good luck. And, Gary Kryman at that time, I think he'd kind of got the end of his tenure here. It's like he had been 35 years or something like that, being our main tech. And
and recapping a console or something is a thankless task.
Yeah, so I mean, that's one of the things we did, is completely recapped everything.
Yeah. Going through all the relays. I mean, it takes it's a lot of work.
Yeah, a lot of work. And it's after a while, it's like, I can't imagine myself. I remember seeing, the pictures of the wiring that Gary was in charge of. He's a dramatic background himself, and incredibly precise, and all laid out as you would hope, would see in all the textbooks. But it's seldom done by, especially the guys who were doing tech work around here. I've been through, half a dozen guys, and I feel so fortunate to have the connection with Kevin now. But as I say, Kevin's over there working with Nani. I guess it just must be at Hansa.
Thank you ever so much for having us. We really appreciate it.
Yeah, nice to meet you.
Thank you. Lovely to meet you too.
Yeah.
So we're here with Pamela Parker, who is a producer, engineer, songwriter, musician, artist at Hyde Street.
Yeah.
Thank you very much for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
How long have you been here?
I have been here 17 years and going on 18 in May.
Oh, wow.
I'm almost legal. So.
Right. Marvelous.
Yes.
So you've been working, what's your journey? How did you end up in San Francisco and here at Hyde Street?
That's a good question. So I'm originally from the DC, Maryland metro area. And when I went to college for music production, there was really only one school in the whole area that I could go to at the time, called Shenandoah Conservatory. So when I decided music was my passion and calling in life, I decided I wanted to be in control of that. So I went to school for music production. And then as part of that, I had to do an internship with someone.
Right.
And then I had met Michael Franti on the Jam Cruise 2 in 2004. And he, we befriended each other, and he gave me his number and address, and I kept sending him like, oh, here's my album from my band, and I was in touch. And at the time, he still had the same number. I called him up. I said, hey, I need an internship. What are you doing right now? And he said, great, I will help you get one. And he said, well, we just finished recording Everyone Deserves Music, which he recorded here, I found out later.
Wonderful.
And I almost got to work on that, but he had just finished it. So instead, he set me up with Jay Bowman to do a 3-week internship. And then Jay was so busy that I only really did a couple days with him. And then right down the hall from him, he shared a studio with Maestro Curtis, who we were kind of talking about a little earlier. And then I learned a lot from Maestro, including songwriting with colors, and he taught me sound therapy and how you could combine that to, help heal people.
And where was that? That was here?
That was in San Francisco.
It was San Francisco.
Right. And, when I was 10, I came to San Francisco and just kind of had a vision since I was 10 that I was going to live here. And then, made that happen. And when I got out here, did that internship, went back home, and then kind of got things together to move out here. And then when I moved out here, I happened to be friends with a guy named Eric McFadden who plays guitar. And I said, Eric, I knew he lived here. I said, hey, do you know what's your favorite studio to work at? He said, oh, you got to go to Hyde Street. So I called up. Jeff Cleland was the manager at the time. And I said, internship, do you have an internship? And they were, oh, we're all full. 2 weeks later, I get a call. Someone dropped out. So I came in Wednesdays from 9 to 6. So that was it. And then became just more of a staff engineer. And so we all
Amazing.
Just evolved from there. Now I have all the keys to all the doors.
That's incredible. So in those days, they already had the Neve because they got it in 1990?
80?
Yeah.
I think. No.
I think he took it over. Michael took it over in 1980.
Yeah, he took it over in 80. Yeah, this was 92.
92,
Yeah,
yeah.
I think you're right, yeah.
So you basically came in and you assisted for a certain period of time and then started
I
engineering?
worked with different people like Gabe Shepard. He was definitely a very big mentor to me. And then I really would book it and record my own songs and
Great.
have friends in and just try to kind of be here when nobody else was here and just learn all the routing and the different outboard gears and what are my favorite mics and stuff like that. So
That's great. We've talked about this a lot, about I would always offer interns the opportunity to come and use the studio in downtime.
yeah.
And they very, very rarely did. And the one or two that did, of course, all have careers.
Right.
It's a big differentiator when you take the little spare time that you do have and actually come in and learn the tools and go that extra stage further as well. Songwriting, obviously, as an artist, is something that you're very passionate about. This color system, I'm intrigued, actually. What can you tell us about it?
So I did actually learn about color theory and sound healing from Maestro Curtis, like I was telling you, during that initial internship before I moved out here. And the week after I had that training, I was set to do my first songwriting workshop ever. So I got there and I forgot to bring paper for the class. And I thought, okay, I got to really get my stuff together here. So I go to the office where we were, and they just had every single color that ever existed of paper. And I thought, oh, I'm going to do an experiment today. I'm going to see if what Maestro told me is so true that it'll just work without me telling anyone about any colors, what anything means. So I got a couple groups, each group picked a color. And then at the end of the day, when we were done with the songs and everyone wrote theirs and surrounded themselves in the colors, then I told everyone what the colors meant. And it was just so right on that it blew my mind. And I was like, wow, this is amazing that you can just surround yourself with this color and it affects you, and
How do you bring that to somebody, though? You say you ask them to pick a color randomly?
like me, I might pick red today because I'm wearing red or maybe white or something. And so then I would say, what color are you feeling? It is really based on what do you feel in the moment now. So then they would pick the color based on what they're feeling now and then surround themselves with that color. So maybe get like 10 pieces of red paper, or if you have a red blanket or like a red jacket or red pants, if you're at home and you can change that helps. But if you just come into the songwriting workshop and you're wearing red or purple or something, that's probably going to be the color you're feeling for that day. So as I kept doing my research on colors, when I read that blind people were affected by colors, then it really kind of sunk in.
How so? How are they affected by it?
The wave of light will affect them in maybe how they're feeling or what they might do that day. So when I read that in kind of some of my research, I thought, okay, it's a wave of light, just like a wave of sound. And that's why sound healing and then color theory go together. And then different frequencies have different pitches. So there's a couple different theories on where red is. Is it really C or is it A? So it just depends on what theory that you believe at the moment. And once you pick the color, you'll play through the chords and which one sounds red. So it's all very much the feeling that you get. So it's a little ethereal and out there when you're kind of starting it. But then when you get to the end and you realize, okay, let me go see what this color really means. And then everything in your song is lining up with that meaning. That to me is what kind of sold me on the whole thing, is every time I did it, it was like right on point with everybody's color. So I just loved it.
There's a part of me that also sort of feels like it's a bit like Miles Davis on Kite and Blue, deciding what mode something's going to be in, and creating a limitation actually helps creativity.
Exactly, yeah. And I felt like it unblocks people that are blocked. I had a really good friend many years ago who was like, oh, I'm so blocked, I can't write songs right now. And I mean, this guy's a great singer. He sounds like Ray LaMontagne, right? And so I'm just like, okay, I got to hear more of your voice. Let's try the color thing. And so he came back to me
Who's the singer?
Evan Lanham from the Live Oaks, really great songwriter. But he came back a few days later, a week later, he was like, that really worked. And he's like, you want to hear my song? And it sounded awesome, So just it's something to kind of throw you off the trail.
Sure.
So that you're not thinking all the time, what should it be and what should I say? more feeling it, which I feel like is what we want in songwriting anyways, to be able to have that feeling and transcend that to our listeners and all the fans.
What's your sort of process when you're writing? Do you sit at the piano and write and try to capture from the moment, so you've got something and then produce it as you go?
I do like to write from the moment, or if I have a song I wrote before, I do have a recording on my phone from the moment that I wrote it. I believe that the first time you ever sing something is the most pure, and that feeling really never comes back. So I might record a song I'm writing the first time, but like the 10th time, it sounds like a completely almost different song. So it's just the inflections of the words and all that. So I do really try to capture that first moment with the songwriting if I can. If you could be here and just be recording while you're writing, that's my favorite thing.
One thing I noticed working with various singers and songwriters over the years, the ones that I admire, and I love this technique, is to, when you're singing a vocal idea, is to maintain where the consonants and vowels are.
Right.
So actually finding lyrics that fit that.
Yes, exactly. A lot of dashes on my sheets, like to match those syllables.
Yeah, because you get a melody if it's relying on relying on consonants, and then you find a lyric that doesn't have those consonants, it completely affects how you hear that melody.
100%. Yeah.
And but that can be a struggle, can be difficult, because then you have to sit there and figure out words.
Yeah, what words fit into these little dashes that I have. Yeah, it's a lot of doing that. It's making up. A lot of times I won't have the words quite right off the bat.
Yeah.
But then, like you're saying, I do the little dashes on the consonants and then make it so that it all makes sense and inflects in the right way.
This album, for instance, did you do it here?
Yes. Yeah, I did. One of the songs, Caught by the Wind, on this album, I was here writing the song in this moment when, and the full story is, I had a date planned with some guy that kept trying to hit me up or whatever. And I was like, look, if you want to hang out, let's do something during the day, not like 2 a.m. every time you're texting me or whatever. Sure. So, and it's tough. He was a musician. It's like, as a musician, you kind of like, you're at a gig or something, so you're not really available, or you have to learn all this music. Long story short, he forgot about it. And I was like, why am I even doing this anyway? The studio's open, nobody's there. Like, I'm just gonna go there and write a song. This is silly. Like, I should just be doing that. So come over here. My friend Ryan Hickey, who did a lot of writing with me, he found out I was here somehow. I think I texted him or he texted me. He came over, and then he posted on Instagram he was here. And then my drummer at the time, Chris McGrew, who's one of the partners in C, he saw Ryan's post on Instagram and was like, hey, can I come over too? Because he didn't work here yet, right? And at that moment, we wrote Caught by the Wind. And it was just, that song is kind of about that, where you think someone else is going to fill some void for you, but really you both could get stuck in the void together if it's the wrong person. And then you're just caught by the wind of that void, right? And so you're just kind of going down the road and you don't even know that.
And was the whole process, the writing and recording, all at the same time?
It was. We wrote the song and then I recorded, some of the basic piano back when we had the off-white Yamaha that was owned by Frank Sinatra. I love that piano. We wrote and recorded, and then we finished the recording at another day. But we did kind of those basics of the piano and the main melody. And then I think to this day, that song has to be the song that I have the most background vocals on. Like, it's just so many that it's almost insane. But it sounds really so smooth.
There's something beautiful as a band when they go off on tour and maybe have an album's worth of songs, and then they can go into the studio and perform them because they've ironed out all of these kinds of things. Having said that, there is something special about that moment, because when you've recorded it, especially if it's a song, like you're saying, a lyric that comes to mind that means something very important in that moment, it's very hard to go back and really have the same kind of emphasis that you would have, when you're doing it. I've heard that story so many times in great records.
True.
Yeah, which is why, probably, arguably some of the Beatles records were so phenomenal, because they were writing and recording in the studio as they went. Exactly. At least by the late period. Great to have you here and know, part of the process here. Do you presumably find artists and bring them in here? How do you get the work and come in and produce and engineer?
That's a good question. A lot of referrals are word of mouth. Yeah. So people just kind of know that I'm here, or I might get a call from the studio, like they requested a female,
Right,
specifically. That's pretty rare, but you know,
No, but
sometimes
that's-
another
it's
female group will
increasing.
do that,
Yeah.
and I love being that person. You know, hey, let's do it. And then, but sometimes a big artist might come in and their wife doesn't let them work with females, so
Right.
it's a little bit like hit or miss in that regard. But mostly, yeah, I'm finding my own artists, and they're either reaching out to me or like I'll always try to post like, oh, I did this record with, you know, I did a really great record with Jen Rund, who is a regional bass player. She's really well known, and
Sure.
she reached out to me and she wanted me to do vocal coaching with her and then work on like arrangements and kind of, you know, how does each song sound? And then we took her band into a couple rehearsals, recorded all those rehearsals because her drummer had a recording studio. So we
Wonderful.
didn't necessarily do anything in here till everyone was like completely set, had all their parts. 2 or 3 full rehearsals with the band. We knew it was perfect. Then brought them in here to get that live feel where everyone's playing at
Great.
the same time. So I love, you know, that was a great process. And she ended up with a really awesome record that just sounds amazing. So
Wonderful.
yeah, I feel proud of that.
Great. Well, thanks ever so much. I really appreciate it.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
Yes.
We'll put links down below where you can check out more of Pamela's music and her productions. So we're sitting here with the rather wonderful Jack Curtzman, studio manager and engineer.
Yeah.
How are you?
Thanks for sitting down with me.
Well, we've been seeing each other
Yeah.
constantly the last couple of days while we've been here filming a snizzle ton of content. I mean, thanks for having us. It's been a
Thanks for
total
coming.
blast.
Yeah, this has been really fun. Love it.
I think what I would like to know from you is obviously we're going to have a little bit of a retrospective as well about the history that we can add to the second part of the history.
Yeah.
You know, so we'll definitely have all the Wally Hyde stuff from 69 to 80. But you joined in, what, 2011?
That's right. Yeah, 2011. Yeah.
So tell us about your journey. Where are you from originally?
From Minnesota. Went to school at University of Wisconsin for music industry and audio recording. And,
Nice.
Yeah, and pretty much right after college, I moved out here and started at Hyde Street. And yeah, it's been.
Wait, the college here, Hyde Street. That simple.
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah. Yeah.
Wow.
I mean, I've always played in bands and been interested in recording and music.
So it's 14 years ago now. How do you get a gig at Hyde Street?
Yeah, I emailed everyone I possibly could email and sent in paper resumes too. That was
Wow.
That was the thing. And just
Probably on the cusp, wasn't it? 2011. Some people probably
yeah,
would have preferred one over the other.
yeah.
And was that all over the country or
All
specifically
over the country.
here?
Yeah, all over the country. I was deciding between going to work at a place in Nashville and here, and ended up here. Glad I did. Really love it here. Yeah, there was I think I caught it at the right time. There was an interim manager at the time, and I needed. I was actually going to intern. I was looking for an internship, and I needed an everyday internship. And that was something that Hyde Street had never had up until that point. And he said he thought that sounded like a good idea. So I really kind of immersed myself, and being here every day, got to know the place better than a lot of the engineers and a lot of the.
So what's the time period from everyday intern to studio manager?
So it wasn't too long before I started taking freelance, recording session gigs here, and I did that for about 4 or 5 years before the management gig opened up. And for that, it's just like something that was 9 to 5 that I wasn't working nights and weekends sounded appealing to me. So that's where I'm at now. I love it, and and I'm still very much a part of the sessions. Coming in and just kind of hanging out here and there, and giving them my 2 cents.
So 10 years of management now.
Yeah,
That's incredible.
Yeah, it's been a fun ride. We've gotten a lot done during that time. We've had anniversary concerts that I put on, and legacy business status for the business, and all sorts of
That's
things like
huge.
that. So yeah, that's great.
That protects the building and its heritage. And
Yeah,
congrats.
thanks. Yeah.
Sounds like a lot of work though.
It is, yeah. But it's like a lot of the folks. You met a lot of the people around here. We got
Yeah.
such a good community, and it's
You do.
it's just a labor of love for people. It's not like it's not like anybody's coming in here to get rich or anything. But it's what we're passionate about. So
And you can at any one point step in and take over a session if necessary.
yeah, absolutely, yeah. And I still work on like friend sessions and get bands in here from time to time, knock the rust off, that sort of thing. So. I still think of myself as a good engineer, and tracking and mixing engineer.
So, as a manager, what is a typical day for you?
It's a lot of correspondence with clients and, dealing with techs. But there isn't a typical day. I mean, there's just so much to juggle. It's also maintaining this old building. The whole thing is, so much under my purview from, I've got to be everything as important as what's going on in the session, major label client coming in to the soda machine breaks. It's all comes to me. So,
Right, and do you have any other full-time staff, or is it everybody freelancer? How does it work, apart from yourself?
No, it's just me for full-time staff, yeah. And the engineers are all freelance, so, yeah.
And then what about if they want an assistant? Do they have to hire them at an engineering rate, or do you have, how does it work?
There's a bit cheaper rate for assistants, just to kind of get people set up and comfortable, that sort of thing. So yeah,
I know you're tapping into some of those same engineers, and they just 1 minute they're assisting, and next minute they're engineering.
Yeah, there's a bit of a divide, but yeah, some of them kind of overlap, and we'll take assisting gigs as well. So yeah.
So how, as San Francisco resident who wanted to come in and intern, etc., what would they do? They'd come in here, intern, they'd learn how to assist, and then what's the sort of...
That's the idea. With the intern program, I really try to make it a goal. It seems like everyone's common goal as an intern is to learn how to utilize the studio.
Of course.
So just, teaching them the console and teaching them how to set up a session and get audio routed through and all of patch bay, all of that stuff. So that's really kind of step one. And, a large part of the engineers, in fact, Scott McDowell and Pamela Parker, I believe they both started as interns, both of who you talked to. So it's a lot of the folks that come through here start that way. But, we get a ton of intern submissions.
Do you have a local college that feeds you interns?
None particularly that we're affiliated with, because I prefer people to reach out personally if they're interested.
You think with Expressions over there, which is SAE now, isn't it?
Well, we've had colleges say, "Hey, why don't we be your exclusive?" And but I don't want to do that sort of thing. I'd rather have, particular interested people reach out. So.
Right. Do you just tell them, hey, if your students are interested, here's our email address?
Exactly. Yep.
Cool. Yeah. Yeah, that makes sense. And you don't want to get into bed with somebody, and then if that doesn't work out, you're sort of inextricably tied to them.
Yeah.
So anybody that's interested, they would just email you and apply to intern and come in and learn the ropes.
Email with a resume, that sort of thing, yeah.
I could ask, what do assistants get paid now? I mean, once you're... Mm-hmm. What is the kind of going rate?
Assistants typically get about $25, $30 an hour, roughly.
That's really good money.
Yeah. I mean, it's expensive to live in San Francisco, so
sure.
It's always skirting that line between keeping it affordable for the client to record here, and making sure that we're offering good rates to the engineers, and that will get good engineers to say yes to those gigs. So.
Right. Yeah, absolutely. Well, because that's the reality now, isn't it? It's labels are still booking studios, kind of, but really the biggest market is the producer engineer that's looking for a room. And occasionally, of course, the band. I know with our studios that we had in LA, bands would call up and then say, "Oh, and by the way, do you have a house engineer? We want to produce ourselves."
Right.
You probably get a few of those. I imagine.
A ton of that. Yeah. I think in San Francisco, the major level scene, it comes through. It's people on tour, and every once in a while someone coming up here specifically to make a record. But it's a lot of local music and a lot of stuff that doesn't have an engineer attached already, doesn't have a producer. So a lot of times I'm making those connections and putting them with someone.
Well, obviously you've got a legacy and a reputation, but at the same time, do you find yourself going to see bands, seeking out local bands, hearing of somebody exciting and interesting and wanting to bring them in?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I'm always kind of I like to go out and watch music. That's what I'm passionate about. So yeah, I'm talking to bands out there, and a lot of the engineers are as well. Trying to drum up clientele and just kind of work on things that they're interested in. So
I've found as an independent producer and engineer that a lot of the times when we go to, like, if we're going to Sunset Sound in LA, it's obviously an incredible room with great gear like here, but people want the romance. They want to come in and know that they're in a room, in a situation where one of their favorite records, obviously you've got Deja Vu, you've got Abraxas, you've got all these incredible Herbie Hancock Headhunters, all these incredibly seminal albums that were recorded here. And yeah, you want to go to that place. You want to be in that room where it was recorded.
absolutely. I think for us, we have our B room, Rancho Rivera, across town, and fantastic studio. Got a ton of really nice pro gear, 1176s, and API, the box console, and some nice stuff over there, and can make a great record. But it doesn't have that like walk in and you're in a big historic studio feel. And so I always feel like clients who are working with us for the first time, I really want them to get this experience right off the bat.